I've lived in this little town in Ohio for more than 80 years. Most of the faces I grew up with are gone now, some moved away, some buried on the quiet hill above the churchyard. Yet here I am, still breathing, still sitting in this same old wooden rocking chair that I built with my own hands when I was young and strong. The chair creaks beneath me the way it always has. It has carried me through decades, through joy, through grief, through silence. Now, in these last chapters of my life, it's almost like the chair is the only thing left that still remembers. Behind me stands a house that once echoed with laughter, the smell of fresh apple, and the sound of Margaret's voice, my wife, my companion for half a century. Margaret loved flowers. She filled this backyard garden with tulips in the spring and roses in the summer. She would kneel in the dirt with her gloves on, humming hymns, planting life into the soil as if it were her way of praying. Today, some of those flowers still bloom, but the garden is not what it used to be. It feels tired, a little like me. People say old age is peaceful, but the truth is, it's quiet to quiet. The world outside moves fast. Cars rushing down Main Street, kids riding bikes, people running to work with coffee cups in their hand. And then there's me, sitting here, moving only when the chair sways back and forth. Sometimes I wonder if the world even knows I'm still here. My days are ruled by little white bottles of pill. Morning, afternoon, one for the heart, one for the blood pressure, one to help me sleep, one to ease the pain in my knee. Each pill is like a reminder that time is winning. I never thought my life would shrink down to this tiny capsules and tablets lined up in a box with days of the week printed on top. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's funny how life ends up measured by plastic compartments. But then there's Isabella, my granddaughter. She comes to see me almost every afternoon after school. 16 years old, full of that fire I used to have. The kind of energy that makes you believe the whole world belongs to you. She's got her mother's smile, my daughter's smile, and sometimes when she laughs, I swear I can hear echoes of Margaret in her voice. Isabella is the one who makes sure I take the right pills at the right time. She checks on me, helps with the groceries, listens to my old stories even though I've told them 100 times. To her, I'm not just an old man waiting for the clock to stop ticking. To her, I'm Grandpa. She's the reason this house doesn't feel completely empty. When she walks, it's like sunlight slips through the cracks of my tired life, warming places I thought had gone cold forever. I don't say it often, but she saves me every single day. And yet, sometimes I see worry in her eyes. She's so young, carrying so much responsibility for me. I tell her, Isabella, you should be out with your friend, going to football games, laughing, living. But she shakes her head, pours me a glass of water, and says, "Don't be silly, Grandpa. You're my best friend." That sentence alone, it keeps me alive. People don't realize how fragile the old are. They look at us and see wrinkle, gray hair, and slow steps. But they don't see the truth. We're balancing between this world and the next every day. One wrong pill, one missed heartbeat, one bad fullet can all be over in an instant. And when you've lived as long as I have, you know how quickly instants can change a life. I never wanted Isabella to carry that burden. But life doesn't always ask what we want. It just gives us moments, some ordinary, some unforgettable. And one of those moments, one that nearly ended everything, is burned into my memory forever. Before I tell you that story, I want you to understand who I am. I wasn't always this fragile old man with shaky hands and watery eyes. I was once a boy running barefoot down the cracked sidewalks of Cleveland. I was once a soldier, terrified but proud, carrying a rifle through the jungles of Vietnam. I was once a husband, holding Margaret's hand as we built a home from nothing, out wood, nails. I was once a father, lifting my baby girl into the air, swearing I'd protect her from everything. And now I'm Gregory, an 80-year-old man sitting in a rocking chair, whispering prayers into a garden that doesn't bloom like it used to. But I'm also a grandfather. And that's where this story begins, not with, but with Isabella. Because in the end, it wasn't my hand, or my strength, or my wisdom that saved me. It was hers. So, if you'll sit with me for a while, I'll tell you about the day my granddaughter became my guardian angel. It was a day that began like any other, but turned into a moment that reminded me just how precious and fragile this thing called life really is. The life before you know. When people look at me now, all they see is age, wrinkled skin, shaky hand, a man who struggles to get up from a chair. But that's not who I've always been. There was a time when I was as full of life as anyone running down Main Street today. And sometime, when I close my eyes, I can still feel it, the fire of youth, the hope, the reckless belief that life was endless. I was born in 1945, right after the war ended. Cleveland, Ohio was my home. Back then, the city felt alive. Steel factories running day and night. Men in coveralls walking home with soot on their faces. Mothers hanging laundry outside while kids played stickball in the alleys. I was one of those kids. Barefoot most of the summer, knees scraped, hair wild, shouting until my throat burned. We didn't need much. A stick, a ball, a patch of dirt. That was our stadium. I remember the taste of cheap lemonade from the corner store, the crack of a bat against the ball, the cheers of my friends as we ran across uneven pavement. Life was simple. Life was good. My parents didn't have much. Dad worked long shifts in a factory. Mom kept the house together. But they gave me something money can't buy, a sense of honor, of hard work, of family. My father used to say, "Gregory, a man's worth isn't measured by what he owns, but by what he built." Those words, they never left me. When I was 18, the world pulled me in a different direction. Vietnam. I was drafted, just like many young men my age. One day, I was tossing a baseball in the park, and the next I was holding an M16, standing in a jungle halfway across the world. I can still smell the mud, the sweat, the fear that clung to us. I wasn't a hero. None of us felt like heroes. We were scared boys pretending to be men. But somehow, I made it home. A lot of good men didn't. Their names are carved in stone in Washington now. Whenever I see that wall, I see faces that never grew old. Faces that never got to sit in a rocking chair. Coming home was hard. The country had changed, and so had I. But then, I met her. Margaret. Margaret wasn't just beautiful, though God knows she was. Blonde hair that caught the sunlight, blue eyes that could soften even the hardest day. But it wasn't her looks that caught me. It was her spirit. She was strong, kind, stubborn when she needed to be, gentle when I was lost in my own story. She believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. We married young, like people did back then. Didn't have much money, but we had love, and we had dreams. I found work as a carpenter, and with every nail I hammered, every piece of wood I sheared, I felt like I was building not just furniture, not just houses, but a future. Margaret would bring me iced tea in the summer while I worked, her smile making even the hottest day feel cool. Together we built a home. Literally, I crafted the walls, the floors, even the rocking chair I still sit in today. She filled the home with warmth, with laughter, with the smell of fresh-baked bread and roses from her garden. When our daughter was born, I cried like a child, holding her in my arms. So small, so fragile, I swore I'd protect her from everything. We named her Catherine. She grew up with her mother's kindness and my stubborn streak. I used to take her to the lake on weekend, teaching her how to skip stones across the water. "Count the skips, Daddy, count them," she'd shout, her laughter echoing through the trees. Those were the happiest days of my life. Years rolled by like the season. Catherine grew, went to college, fell in love, and had children of her own. And when Isabella was born, I felt something shift inside me. Being a grandfather was different. It was softer, slower. You don't carry the same weight of responsibility. Instead, you carry story, memories, lessons. Isabella would crawl into my lap, tug at my glasses, and giggle as I read her picture. Sometimes she'd fall asleep against my chest while I rocked her in this very chair. I thought to myself, this is what it means to live a full life. But life, it doesn't let you keep everything. One day, you look round, and the laughter isn't as loud, the house isn't as full, and the person you thought you couldn't live without is gone. Margaret got sick. It started small, just fatigue, shortness of breath. Then the doctor said the word no one wants to hear, cancer. I tried to stay strong for her, but watching the woman who had been the light of my life fade away, that's a pain I can't put into words. She fought with all the strength she had, but after 50 years together, I had to say goodbye. When Margaret passed, the world dimmed. The garden she loved so much began to wither, because I didn't have the heart to tend it. The house felt empty, even though Catherine visited, even though Isabella came running through the door after. Grief has a way of echoing in the wall, and now, here I sit, an old carpenter, his hands too shaky to build, his back too weak to carry wood. A soldier who survived wars outside and inside, a husband who lost his partner, a father and grandfather who tries to pass on what little wisdom he has left. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: life isn't just about the years you live, it's about the love you. And though my body is frail, my love for Catherine, for Isabella, for Margaret who waits for me somewhere beyond burns stronger than ever. People might think old age is nothing but decline, but to me, it's a library. Every wrinkle is a story, every scar a chapter, every tear a memory. And sometime, if you listen closely enough, you'll realize an old man isn't just telling you about the past. He's reminding you of your own future. That's who I was before that day. Not just a frail man in a rocking chair, but Gregory, a boy from Cleveland, a soldier, a carpenter, a husband, a father, and a grandfather. A man who lived, who loved, who lost, and who still had one more lesson to learn. The routine of old age mourning comes slowly here in my little house in Ohio. Not the kind of slow that feels peaceful, no. It's more like a gentle warning that another day is starting. And I'm still here, still moving, still breathing. The sun slips through the blind, casting thin stripes across the floorboard, and I take a deep breath of the cool, early air. There's coffee brewing in the kitchen, the smell curling through the rooms like a ghost of mornings. Black coffee, always black. That's how Margaret liked it, and somehow, even after all these years, it feels like the only way to start my day. I shuffle to the kitchen, cane in hand, the floor cold under my slippers. My body reminds me of every year I've carried aches in my knees, stiffness in my back, hands trembling even when I try to hold them steady. I reach for the pill organizer on the counter. Monday through Sunday, tiny compartments filled with capsules and tablets. My lifeline, one for the heart, one for the blood pressure, one for the anxiety that never fully leaves me, one for the aching joints that remind me of a lifetime of work. Sometimes I stare at them, wondering if they know the stories I could tell. If they could, maybe they'd speak louder than I can these days. Breakfast is simple: a piece of toast, black coffee, and a moment of silence. The radio hums softly in the background, playing a local Ohio station, some oldies this morning, Elvis crooning through the static. I close my eyes and imagine Margaret humming along while she prepared breakfast, and for a second, the house feels alive again. But that feeling passes quickly, leaving only the quiet. Emily arrives like clockwork, 16 years old, bright, determined, full of that restless energy that makes me feel both old and comforted at the same time. She carries her backpack into the kitchen, kicks off her sneakers, and gives me that familiar grin, the one that says, "I've got you, Grandpa." She doesn't say much at first. Her presence is enough. She moves with the ease of youth, unpacking groceries, checking the mail, tidying up the house. Every movement is deliberate, careful, because she knows I can't do half the things I once could. And then, the pill. Emily takes the organizer from me, separating the capsules and tablets for the day. I watch her hand, small and steady, working with precision, and I can't help but feel a little pang of guilt. She's so young to carry this burden. I whisper, "You shouldn't be doing all this, Emily. Go outside, play, laugh, be a teenager." She shakes her head. As always, eyes soft. "I'm happy to help, Grandpa. You're my family." Family. That word carries so much weight, doesn't it? It's what keeps me tethered to the world. Without it, I would be just another man in a rocking chair, fading into the wallpaper, invisible to the world outside. After the pills are arranged, Emily helps me dress. Socks, shirt, trousers, shoes. Each movement a small victory, a reminder that my body obeys me sometimes. Then we step outside. The backyard is quiet, except for the soft rustle of leaves and the distant hum of traffic on Main Street. I settle into the rocking chair, chin propped against the arm, let the morning sun warm my face. Emily sits beside me, opening a notebook to do homework while keeping one out. It's strange, the way life shifts. When I was young, she was just a baby giggling in my arm. Now, she's a young woman, and I'm the one who needs care. We don't say much during these mornings. Words feel heavy. Instead, we watch the world. The neighbors walking their dogs, a couple jogging with their buds, the mailman making his round. The contrast is stark. Life outside rushes forward, fast and careless. Here, everything moves slowly. My heartbeat, my thoughts, the creak of the chair beneath me. Sometimes I feel like I'm suspended in a bubble, watching the world through a layer of glass, unable to touch it fully anymore. And yet, these quiet routines are everything. They're what keep me alive. Breakfast, pills, coffee, small talk, fresh air. They're the framework of my day, fragile but steady. I know I could collapse at any moment. One misstep, one skipped pill, one unnoticed heart flutter, and yet I rise each morning. Because Emily rises with me. Because someone still cares. By mid-morning, we head to the local park. It's a short walk, slower than I used to manage, slower than the children sprinting past us, but it's enough. Enough to see life still moving, enough to hear laughter, enough to feel the wind on my face. Emily holds my hand sometime, steadying me when I wobble, reminding me that even a small hand can hold great. People often ask me, don't you get bored? But I never do. There is comfort in repetition. There is beauty in the ordinary. A bird landing on the fence, a child chasing a dog, the smell of cut grass. I notice things I would have ignored in my youth because I was too busy running, too busy living fast. Now, every small detail matters. Every fleeting moment becomes monumental. Still, there's an undercurrent of tension in my days. I feel it creeping in more with each passing week. My hands shake a little more. My chest tightens at odd moments. Pills, doses, schedules, they are my lifeline, but also my reminder of fragility. I know that one mistake could change everything. And lately, I've started to notice Emily's subtle signs of worry. A pause before handing me a pill, a furrowed brow when she checks my blood pressure. She's good, careful, but she's only 16. She shouldn't have to hold the weight of a lifetime on her shoulders. Sometimes, I think about the accidents that could happen. A slipped pill, a misplaced bottle, a wrong dose. I've read the pamphlet, heard the warning, and yet, life has a way of surprising you. And in my heart, I know that surprise will come. It always does. Back home, after our walk, Emily makes me a light lunch soup or a sandwich and we sit at the kitchen table. The radio plays softly, the afternoon sun filtering through the curtain. We talk about school, about her friend, about the silly things teenagers worry about. I smile, nod, and listen, because these conversations remind me that she's still a girl, still growing, still learning. And that thought both comforts me and frightens. Comforts me because she's vibrant, alive. Frightens me because life is fragile, and After lunch, I retreat to my chair in the backyard gardening. Emily does homework nearby, occasionally looking up to ask if I need anything. I watch her, and I wonder if she understands how close we come to losing people, even in moments that seem ordinary. I remember Margaret, her laughter echoing, her presence filling every corner of this home. I remember Catherine teaching Isabella to skip stone. And I know, without saying it, that life is a thread thin straight, but delicate. I begin to notice things more now. The subtle change in the color of the sky, the way a wind rustles the leaves differently today. My chest feels slightly tight, and my hand rests on it as if to reassure myself. A pill could save me, a nurse could save me, a heartbeat could or couldn't. Fear lingers quietly, a shadow just behind the sunlit warmth of my garden. Emily rises and checks on the pill organizer again. She hums softly, a tune I can't place, but it reminds me of Margaret. I smile, faintly, and think how lucky I am, yet I can't shake a sense of anticipation. Something is coming. My body tells me, my heart tells, and perhaps even the universe whispers, pay attention. Today, the ordinary will change. We finish the afternoon with a short nap. I close my eyes in the rocking chair, Emily beside me, notebook resting on the arm. Her head tilts as she watches, silent, attentive. I feel the warmth of the sun, the weight of my years, the life I've lived pressing gently against me. And somewhere deep down, I know without knowing how that our routine, this fragile but steadfast pattern, will soon be tested. Because in the end, life doesn't always wait for a permission. Life doesn't give warning. Life doesn't care about schedules or routines or comfort. It moves, it shifts, it surprises, and when you least expect it, it demands everything you have. And that day, it came. The mistake, it was just another afternoon, or so I thought. Sunlight spilled across the kitchen floor, dust motes dancing in the warm glow. Emily was there, as always, unpacking groceries from the small town market she walked to after. She hummed a tune soft, one of those songs I couldn't place, but it reminded me of Margaret in some way I couldn't explain. There was laughter in it, hope. I settled into my chair, came resting against the counter, and reached for my pill organizer. Routine. Safe, predictable. The comfort of these moments had been a lifeline, the quiet rhythm of my day. But that afternoon, the rhythm broke. Emily was sorting the pill, her hands small but precise. My eyes followed her movement, heart, blood pressure, anxiety, joints, each capsule lined up like soldiers on a battlefield. I watched her glance at the compartment labeled evening, then back at me. She smiled, the kind of smile meant to reassure. "Here we go, Grandpa," she said softly. I lifted the pill to my lips, tasting the familiar chalky texture. Swallow, wash it down with a sip of water, and then immediately I felt it. A wave of dizziness, sharp and cold, swept through. My vision blurred. The kitchen lights stretched and wavered. My chest tightened, my heart beating erratically. My legs betrayed me. I swayed, nearly toppling the chair. "Emily," my voice faltered, a whisper caught in my throat. Her eyes widened. "Grandpa," her voice cracked, fear breaking through her usual calm. I could see her panic before I even understood it. I tried to speak again, but words refused me. It felt as though life itself was slipping, second by second, like sand through desperate fingers. My chest felt heavy, my breath shallow, my body shook violently, and I could barely hold the cane. Emily's hands trembled as she reached for it. "Oh God, Grandpa," she cried. I gave you the wrong one." The words barely registered. My mind raced. Pills, compartments, instruction. She had mixed them up. The controlled substance meant to help me sleep strong. Dangerous was in my hand instead of the blood pressure pill I was supposed to take. Panic and guilt washed over her, cascading in waves I could feel even in my dizzy, fading state. She was so young, barely 16. And here she was, staring at me as if the weight of the world had just landed squarely on her shoulder. Her lips trembled, her hands shook. I didn't mean to, Grandpa. I wanted to reassure her, to tell her it was okay, that mistakes happen, that she wasn't. But my lungs burned. My heart raced like a drum in a hurricane. Words were useless. All I could do was see her face, wide-eyed, white-knuckled, frozen for a fraction of a second that felt like eternity. Then she remembered. The emergency injection. The doctor had left it for moments like this, tucked away in the upper cabinet near the fridge. My life, fragile and precious, depended on her remembering. She dashed to the cabinet, a flurry of motion. I watched her, panic-stricken but determined, the clock in my mind counting down each unbearable second. Less than 10 minutes. She needed to act in less than 10 minutes, or I would slip away, irretrievable. I felt helpless. My body was betraying me, my mind clouded. And yet, in those moments of fear, clarity arrived. Memories flooded in, holding Isabella as a baby in the hospital, her tiny fingers grasping mine. Watching her take her first steps in this very backyard. The first day of school, tears and laughter intertwined. Every smile, every giggle, every small hand she had ever placed in mine, it all came rushing back. A silent plea. A reminder that this girl had grown under my care and now, in a cruel twist of fate, had the power to save me. Emily's breaths were sharp, uneven. Her hands hovered over the small glass vial, syringe in hand. She hesitated. I could see the hesitation, the fear in her eyes, and it made my heart constrict. I wanted to tell her, "You can do this. You can save me." but my lips wouldn't form the words. And then, determination. She inhaled deeply, grounding herself, gripping the syringe with the courage that only youth tempered by love can. Tears streaked her cheek, her fingers shook violently, but she moved with precision, guided by memory and necessity. She found the vein, her other hand steadying mine, and administered the injection. Time slowed. Each second was a chisel carving my survival. The medicine entered my vein, a lifeline coursing through me. I felt a warmth creeping, spreading slowly from my chest, into my arm, my leg. My heart beat steady, my lungs expanded, and I realized I was breathing again. The room seemed to exhale with me. Emily collapsed into a chair beside me, crying, sobbing, trembling with relief and terror. I could barely speak, my voice hoarse and weak, but I whispered, "You saved me." She shook her head, tears flowing free. I just didn't want to lose you, Grandpa. I couldn't let that happen. We sat there, the quiet after the storm deafening. The kitchen smelled faintly of soup, of coffee, of pills, of fear. I took her hand in mine, fragile as it was, and held it tight. Her fingers were still shaking, but there was a fire in her eyes, a mixture of determination and relief that made me understand something profound. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action in spite of it. I wanted to tell her how proud I was, how much I loved her, how nothing in my 8 years had ever made me feel more alive than that single moment. But words failed me. Instead, I held her, letting her cry into my shoulder. And in that embrace, I felt the weight of years, of loss, of love, all converging. It was then I realized life can pivot in an instant. A single misstep, a single moment of distraction could have ended everything. And yet, it didn't, because love, pure and unyielding, had intervened. My granddaughter, barely 16, had faced death itself and acted without hesitation. She had carried more strength than many I had known in my adult life. As the adrenaline faded, I could feel my body trembling not from weakness, but from survival. Every muscle ached, every breath was a gift, and every heartbeat a reminder that I was still here, still tethered to this world by the hands of the girl I had once held as a baby. Emily leaned back, exhausted, staring at the floor, whispering over and over, "I'm so sorry, Grandpa, I'm so sorry." I lifted a hand, but steady, touched. "SHH, don't say that. You didn't take me from life. You gave me back my life." And in that moment, I saw something extraordinary. Fear had transformed into relief, panic into courage, despair into triumph. I saw the enormity of her heart, the depth of her love, and I knew that I had just witnessed a miracle, not in some grand, mythical sense, but in the ordinary, intimate, terrifying reality of life itself. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. I could still feel the tremor in my hand, the tightness in my chest, the lingering dizziness. But I was alive. Alive because she acted, alive because she loved, alive because sometimes life chooses to test you, not to break you, but to remind you what matters. Later, after she had calmed, after I was sitting again in my rocking chair, came by my side, I watched her quietly. The girl who had been my shadow in the garden, my helper, my listener, had become my savior. She had faced death without flinching and had emerged stronger, more alive than I had ever seen. And I, frail old man that I was, could do nothing but marvel at her courage and love. I really knew that life is precious, unpredictable, and terrifyingly fragile. One wrong pill, one distracted moment, one misjudgment could end everything. And yet, one small act of love, one quick decision, could restore it all. Emily and I sat together in silence, our hands clasped, our breathing slowly returning to normal. I felt the warmth of the sun, the gentle sway of the rocking chair, the quiet that only follows a storm. And in that quiet, I realized something fundamental. Love doesn't diminish with age. It doesn't shrink with weakness. It only grows, sometimes under the most unimaginable pressure, proving itself in moments that define life itself. I would never forget that afternoon. The fear, the panic, the helplessness, but also the courage, the strength. The love. Isabella had taught me a lesson I didn't know I still needed to learn, that life, fragile as it is, can be saved, cherished, and honored in ways I had never fully understood until now. And from that day forward, nothing in my routine ever felt mundane again. Every morning, every pill, every step into the backyard garden became a reminder that life is a gift, precarious yet enduring, terrifying yet miraculous. Because sometimes it takes a single mistake, one terrifying, almost fatal slip to remind you of everything you've ever loved, everything worth holding onto, and everything worth fighting. Redemption. I found hope. Hope that the legacy of love, of family, of resilience would continue beyond me, through her, through the generation she would touch. By the time evening settled, the crisis had passed entirely. The sun disappeared behind the horizon, leaving the sky streaked with purples and gold. We remained in the garden. The moments after the injection felt endless, yet fleeting. Time stretched and contracted all at once. I could feel my chest easing, the tight, crushing weight lifting ever so slightly. Air filled my lungs like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. I opened my eyes and saw her. Emily collapsed into a chair across from me, tears streaking her face, hair disheveled, hands still trembling from adrenaline and fear. I tried to speak, to tell her it was all right, that she had saved me, but my voice was weak, just a hoarse whisper, barely carrying across the small kitchen. Emily, you saved me. She didn't respond at first. She just looked at me, her eyes wide, trembling, her chest heaving as if each breath might shatter her. And then, finally, the words came, small, quivering, full of guilt and relief. I thought I was going to lose you, Grandpa. I almost killed you. I shook my head slowly, trying to reassure her. No, you didn't. You saved me. You acted. You were brave. Her hands flew to cover her face, sobbing quietly. I reached out, my shaking fingers brushing against her. Look at me, I said softly, forcing her to lift her gaze. I'm here, alive, because of you. Not because of luck, not because of chance, because of you. She blinked through her tears, hesitant, uncertain. I could see the weight of the world on her young shoulders, the immense responsibility she felt, and my heart ached. Emily, I whispered again, you were the bravest person I've ever seen. Don't you forget. And then, slowly, the tension began to ebb. My breathing steadied further. My legs ceased their trembling. I could feel my heartbeat settling into a rhythm that was my own again. The storm had passed, leaving silence and the faint scent of fear still lingering in the air. We didn't speak for a long time. Words weren't necessary. Emily leaned against my armchair, her head resting near my hand, still trembling. I sat there, rocking slowly, each creak of the chair punctuating the silence. I thought about Margaret, about Catherine, about all the years of life I had carried within me, and I realized how fragile and precious every single moment truly was. I wanted to tell her everything, that fear and guilt aren't always reflective of reality, that mistakes don't define us, that love, when genuine and selfless, is stronger than any other. But instead, I simply held her hand, guiding it into mine, grounding her as much as she had grounded me. As the minutes passed, relief replaced panic. Emily began to calm, her sobs slowing, her breaths returning to normal. I could feel a transformation happening in her. The terror that had almost paralyzed her was giving way to awareness, understanding, most importantly, resilience. She had faced the unimaginable and acted. I thought I'd lost you, she whispered again, voice breaking. I couldn't. You didn't lose me, I said gently. You gave me back my life. That's what matters. Not the mistake, not the fear. You acted when it counted most. That's courage. That's love. We sat together in that quiet kitchen, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the floor. I could feel the warmth of the fading day, the gentle rhythm of life returning to its proper pace. My body still shook slightly, a reminder of the ordeal, but my soul felt lighter, and I could see it in her too. I began to remember the first time I held Emily as a baby, the tiny hands clutching my fingers, the way she had looked at me with wonder, and I recalled her first steps, her laughter echoing across this very backyard, the countless stories we had shared, the quiet moments of tenderness when she had rested her head against me. And now, all those memories had converged into this monumental moment, her fear, her love, saving me when I had thought my time might be up. Grandpa, she murmured, her voice trembling. I was so scared. I didn't know if I could. Yes, I said softly. I know. I could see it in your eyes. But you did. You did it. And now, look at me. We're both here. She finally let herself cry openly, the sobs racking her young body. And I, frail and weakened, held her close. I whispered words of reassurance, of pride, of love. For the first time that day, she allowed herself to lean fully into someone else's strength, the strength I had never doubted she would find within herself. I wanted to etch that moment into my memory forever, to hold on to the knowledge that life, even when it faltered, can be restored through the love of another. Emily had become not just my granddaughter, not just my companion, but my savior. And I, an old man in a rocking chair, understood something vital. Life is never guaranteed, but love endures, unyielding, unstoppable. Later, when the immediate crisis, we moved to the backyard. The sun was dipping low in the sky, painting the garden in shades of gold and amber. I settled into the rocking chair, my body tired but my heart full. Emily sat beside me, closer now, not as a caretaker or helper, but as a companion, a witness to the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit. We didn't speak at first. Words weren't necessary. The world seemed to hold its breath alongside us, the air thick with the enormity of what had just occurred. And in that silence, I felt gratitude, deep and unwavering, for her, for life, for the fragile, fleeting, miraculous gift of each moment we are given. "Grandpa," she said finally, voice small, tentative. "Yes," I replied, rocking slowly. I don't want to make mistakes again." "You won't," I said gently. "Not like this. You've learned something important. Courage doesn't mean you won't be scared. It means you act anyway. And that's exactly what you did." Her eyes glistened, catching the golden light. "I was so afraid, and that's okay," I said. "Afraid is human. Fear is natural. But love is what carried us. Your love saved me." We sat together, the sun lowering behind the trees, casting long, gentle shadow. The garden seemed to breathe again, colors deeper, air warmer, as if life itself acknowledged the entrance of love over fear. I felt the weight of my years, the scars of my life, the ache of my body. For the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of wholeness. Emily leaned her head against my shoulder, small and fragile, yet unbreakable. I could feel her pulse, steadying, calming, a mirror to my own. We remained like that for a long while, rocking gently in tandem, hearts synchronizing in the shared relief of survival. In those moments, I understood something profound. Life is fragile, pain is inevitable, mistakes happen, but courage, love, and determination, they are far stronger than fear. And sometimes, it takes the youngest among us to remind the oldest that life, though tenuous, is still worth holding. I looked at her, this remarkable young woman I had raised and nurtured, and I saw not only the child I had held in my arms decades ago, but the extraordinary human being she had become. Brave, compassionate, unwavering. And in that realization, a little longer, side by side, holding hand, simply being. The fear had receded, leaving only gratitude, only understanding, only the quiet, profound knowledge that life's most precious moments often arrive in its darkest. And I knew then, as I had never known before, that even in the twilight of life, even as my body falters and my years weigh heavily upon me, the heart remains capable of extraordinary. Love remains capable of extraordinary feats. And in Isabella, I had witnessed both firsthand. That day had begun as any other, ordinary and routine, but it ended with a lesson I would carry to the end of my days. Courage isn't measured by strength or by wisdom. It is measured by action in the face of fear, by the willingness to protect what matters most, by the sheer force of love willing to defy fear. And Emily, my granddaughter, had taught me that lesson in the most unforgettable way possible. The value of life. It has a way of teaching lessons you never thought you'd need to learn. Sometimes it comes softly, like a whisper in the wind. Other time, it slams into you, fierce and unrelenting, leaving scars that mark both body. That day with Emily, it was one of those lessons, carved into my heart with the sharp edge of fear and the warmth of love. I have lived 80 years of mornings and nights, of laughter and grief, of victories small and large. I have held hands, built homes, and said goodbye. I have walked through war zones, faced mortality in jungles far from home, and carried the weight of loss heavier than any soldier's back. And yet, nothing prepared me for the raw and filtered reminder of just how fragile life is. That afternoon, when I nearly slipped from this world, I understood something I had always known in theory, but never so intensely in practice. Every breath, every heartbeat, every small gesture matters. Life is not a series of days measured by calendars or clock. It is measured by the moments you are truly alive, the moments you touch others, and the moments you are touched in return. Emily, my granddaughter, taught me this in the most extraordinary way. She was young, barely 16, yet in that fleeting, terrifying moment, she carried the weight of my life in her hand. Her courage, her quick thinking, her unwavering love, it was more powerful than any medicine, any intervention. It reminded me that even in weakness, even in frailty, life is sustained by connection, by the care we give to one another. I think often about how the world views the elderly. In some ways, we are invisible, as though the years we carry are burdens too heavy for others to notice. Society tends to see the aged as fragile, slow, obsolete. Nursing homes, assisted living facilities, medication schedules, the language itself feels clinical, reducing a lifetime of experience into checklists and procedures. But we are more than that. We are libraries of story, repositories of memory, vessels of wisdom. And yet, in a moment, even all that knowledge cannot protect us. It is the love of another, often the youngest among us, that can make the difference between life and death. When Emily acted that day, she reminded me of something vital. The value of life is not measured by how long we survive, but by how deeply we are loved, and how deeply we love in return. She showed me that courage can reside in the most unexpected places, that the human spirit can rise even in the face of overwhelming fear. I looked at her afterward, sitting beside me, trembling but alive, and I realized that love is sometimes the strongest medicine of all. And yet, I cannot deny the fear, the terror, that coursed through my veins. I remember feeling my heart stutter, my lungs and the world blur into a haze of dizziness and panic. In that moment, life itself seemed to hang by a thread, delicate and unforgiving. It was a reminder of just how fleeting existence can be. And yet, even as I teetered on the edge, I also felt clarity. I felt the depth of my bonds with my family, the love that had carried me for decades, and the immense power of a single act performed with intention and care. I have seen life end in so many ways. I have held friends in my arms after war, watched neighbors fade in nursing home, and buried the people I loved most. Death is inevitable, a certainty we cannot escape. But life is a choice, a series of moments, each one precious, each one irretrievable once past. And the value of life lies in recognizing those moments, in honoring them, in acting with love and purpose. That afternoon, as I sat recovering, I thought about all the ordinary moments I had once taken for granted. The laughter in the kitchen, the smell of fresh bread, the warmth of sunlight on my face, each one suddenly extraordinary. Each one a reminder that life is fragile, yes, but also endlessly resilient when nurtured by care. And Emily's hand, shaking as they held the syringe, became symbols not of fear, but of hope. Hope that life, even at its most vulnerable, can be protected by compassion. I thought about the mistakes we all make. Life is messy, imperfect, full of errors, both big and small. But mistakes do not define us. Love does, courage does, connection does. And Emily, in her youthful determination, reminded me that even when we falter, redemption is possible. Even when fear paralyzes, action guided by love can set things right. I have learned, over these many decades, that life cannot be taken for granted. The old adage, you don't know what you've got until it's gone, is painfully true. But I also learned something new. Sometimes you don't have to lose something to recognize its value. Sometimes a near loss, a brush with the fragile edge of mortality, is enough to open your eyes to the depth of what matters most. For me, what matters most has always been family. Margaret, who filled my life with light and warmth. Catherine, my daughter, whose laughter and kindness continue to echo through. And now, Isabella, my granddaughter, whose courage, love, and quick thinking reminded me that the bonds we forge can be stronger than fear itself. She taught me that life is not measured in it, but in the love we give, the lives we touch, and the moments in which we choose. As I sit here now, older and frailer than ever, I reflect on the fragility of the elderly. How often we are overlooked, underestimated, dismissed. And yet, within us, within our story, within our very being, there is immense value. The lessons we carry, the memories we hold, the love we give, these are treasures not to be ignored. We may be fragile in body, but we are resilient in spirit, and it is the connections we nurture that sustain us. Emily's mistake could have ended everything, but it didn't. It became a testament to the enduring power of love and courage. And in that testament, I found hope. Hope that even in a world that sometimes forgets the elderly, there are always those who will see, who will care, who will act when it matters most. I have spent my life learning, loving, building, and losing. And now, in these quiet years, I am learning something else. The profound value of life is not in the absence of fear, nor in the avoidance of stake, nor in the accumulation of wealth or accomplishment. It is in the presence of love, the willingness to act, and the courage to face the uncertainty that each day brings. I often tell Isabella stories about the past, about Cleveland, about the war, about Margaret, about carpentry, about life's countless lessons. And now, she has taught me a story in return. A story not of bricks or battle, not of lost loves or earned victory, but of something more vital, the power of love to sustain life, to heal fear, to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. And as I watch her grow, I realize something else. The lessons of life are never truly finished. Each generation learns, teaches, and inspires. Each act of love, each gesture of courage, each decision made in fear or hope, contributes to the ongoing story of life itself. Emily's hand, which once held the power to save me, will one day guide us. Her heart, full of courage and compassion, will touch lives in ways I cannot yet imagine. And in that continuity, I see the true value of life. I am an old man, yes. My body is frail, my steps slow, my hair gray. But I have witnessed something extraordinary. I have seen life almost slip away, and I have seen it return, not by fate or luck, but by the love and bravery of a 16-year-old girl who chose to act when it mattered most. And so, I sit here now, rocking gently, letting the memories wash over me, letting gratitude fill the spaces fear once. Life is fragile, life is fleeting, life is precious beyond measure, but it is also beautiful, resilient, and endlessly sustained by love. Emily saved me once, but in doing so, she reminded me that the value of life is not just in surviving, it is in loving, in acting, in connecting, in cherishing every single moment we are given. And in that lesson, I find peace. Epilogue: the garden is quiet now. The sun has dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Shadows stretch long across the grass, and the flowers, tulip, roses, remnants of Margaret, scarce sway gently in the evening breeze. I sit in my rocking chair, the familiar creak beneath me grounding me, carrying memories of decades long past. Beside me, Isabella sits on the stone edge of the flower bed. Her legs dangle, bare feet brushing the grass, and her head leans lightly against my arm. She doesn't say much, doesn't need to. Words have already been spent, emotions poured out, lessons learned. Silence now is enough for deep understanding. I look at her and think of all the moments that brought us here. The baby she once was, tugging at my glasses, her laughter filling every corner of this house. The little girl who ran through the garden, chasing sunlight like it was magic. And now, the young woman who acted with courage beyond her years, who saved me in a way no medicine ever could. Life is strange, isn't it? It carries you through storms you think you can't survive, places where fear seems insurmountable. And yet, it also hands you light, sometimes in the form of a tiny hand clutching yours, a smile that steadies your trembling heart, a soul that refuses to let go even when the world seems ready to. I remember the days of my youth, Cleveland Street, stickball in the alleys, the smell of the factory, laughter echoing against brick walls. I remember the war, the jungle, the terror and camaraderie. I remember Margaret, her light, her strength, her unwavering belief in me. I remember Catherine, her small hand, her first steps, her laugh like wind chimes on a summer day. And now, Isabella. Every memory is a thread, weaving the tapestry of a life I once thought fragile, now made resilient through love. Sometimes, people think growing old is only about loss, about fading strength, about friends who have gone before us, about moments we can no longer reach. But I have learned something different. Growing old is about seeing the value in every breath, every heartbeat, every smile. It is about understanding that life's true measure is not in years, but in love shared, courage, and Liv's touch. Isabella turns her head, catching my gaze, her eyes still glistening from the ordeal, hold question, wonder, and a hint of pride. I smile gently, feeling the weight of time in my chest, the quiet joy of knowing that she, too, will carry forward the lessons of courage, love. Grandpa, she whispers, so, do you think I'll ever be able to be that brave again? I chuckle, faint but warm, the sound mingling with the evening. You don't need to be brave, Isabella. You already are. Courage isn't about being fearless. It's about acting when fear is there. And today, you acted. You didn't just save me, you proved that love is stronger than anything. She leans closer, resting her head against my shoulder. I can feel the steady rhythm of her pulse, the softness of her hair against my cheek, and the comfort of her presence fills me more than any medicine, any memory, any moment in all my age. I glance at the fading flowers, at the garden that Margaret once tended with such devotion. I think of how life withers and blooms, how sorrow and joy intermingle, how endings and beginnings are often inseparable. And I realize, though my body is frail, though time presses heavily upon me, the essence of life, the love we give, the courage we summon, the bonds we forge remains unbroken. Thank you, Isabella, I whisper, for everything. Her small hand squeezes mine. Thank you for trusting, Grandpa, she says. And in those words, in that quiet exchange, I feel the infinite circle of life, love, and legacy. The sun sinks fully behind the horizon, leaving streaks of purple and gold across the sky. The garden exhales in the cool evening air. Crickets begin their nightly chorus, and I rock gently in my chair. The creak a soft accompaniment to the rhythm of life, the heartbeat of family, the echo of decades lived and lessons learned. I used to think growing old meant losing everything: strength, friend, love. But that day, Isabella showed me something different. What matters most is never lost. Love doesn't fade with age. It only grows, strengthens, and endures, even in the face of mortality. Even when life itself feels like it's slipping away. I glance at Isabella again, her face soft in the dying light. My granddaughter, my guardian, my miracle. And I know that no matter what tomorrow brings, this moment, this connection, this love is eternal. I close my eyes briefly, letting the garden, the evening, the presence of family wash over me. I breathe in the cool air, hear the soft rustle of leaves, feel the pulse of life continuing in the young woman beside me, and in that, I am at peace. Life is fragile, life is fleeting, life is precious, and yet, life is beautiful beyond measure.